Hello, and welcome to the Unreleased, the Design Research Podcast. This podcast exists to help map, broadcast, and promote design research worldwide. The Unreleased podcast is brought to you by UNIDCOM and IADE, Universidade Europeia. The interview was recorded on the sidelines of the IADE Doctoral program's inaugural lecture. To know more, visit unreleased.unidcom-IADE.pt. That's unreleased.unidcom-IADE.pt. In this interview, Carlos Rosa, the Dean of IADE, Faculty of Design, Technology and Communication at Universidade Europeia, talks to Gjoko Muratovski, a global design and innovation leader with over 25 years of experience working with everyone from Fortune 500 companies to NASA. He is currently shaping the future of education as Provost at the Australian Institute of Advanced Technologies and driving automotive innovation at Icona Design Group. Gjoko has advised organizations worldwide, taught at top universities, and written influential books on design research. So get ready for a fascinating conversation about design, strategy, and the future of innovation. In this episode, Gjoko Muratovski shares his unconventional journey from classical design training to become a leader in design research and strategy, emphasizing the shift from aesthetics to purpose-driven, humanity-centric design. He recounts a pivotal moment when he realized the need to connect design with business impact, which led him to study marketing, management, and economics. Muratovski argues that designers must evolve from creators to curators, leveraging research and AI to frame problems and write strong design briefs, as these define most of the solution. He sees AI as a tool that frees designers to focus on critical thinking and ethical decision-making, enabling them to create meaningful impact rather than just beautiful objects. Here is Carlos Rosa and Gjoko Muratovski.
So let's start this unreleased conversation with Gjoko Muratovski. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sorry about the script, but I'm not a native English, so I need some kind of help. I wrote some questions for you today. We really appreciate you taking the time to share with us your insights about design research. With the design community, we are a school that have four, let's say, great scientific areas: visual arts, design, creative technology, and communication. And I'd like you to start to ask you about your unique trajectory. You combine design practice, research, and leadership in academia. So could you start by sharing how your view of design's purpose has evolved throughout your career?
Yeah. Hi, Carlos. First, I just want to say thanks for having me here. English is also not my first language; it's my fifth.
Okay.
So I also
could
struggle
try,
sometimes.
We could try in Portuguese or in your native language.
Portuguese
but
I still didn't learn. It's really great to be here. It's an amazing school. You've been doing amazing things here, and I really enjoyed meeting everyone and learning about the work that's taking place here. So you asked me about my trajectory. It's a very peculiar trajectory. It's not an ordinary, it's not a very kind of typical trajectory that you may find, but I am trained as a classical designer, and from there on I picked up different things. Now, how did things change? I studied in very classical, traditional art schools and art academies in Europe for most of the part. And at some point, after I was doing my second degree, in industrial design, while I was also working, I realized that there is like a lot of these things that I need to know about the profession that they never taught me in school. So then when I decided to do a master's, I really wanted to address these things. And in fact, that's when I wrote my first book, which is called Beyond Design. And that book was about all the things that I wanted to know, that I needed to know, but that they never taught me in an art school about design. And I distinctly remember coming across, when I was doing my research at the time, coming across this book called Creative Breakthrough Innovations or something like that. And at the end of the book, there was a conclusion written by Ken Friedman. And I remember reading that for the first time. That's when I first heard the name Ken Friedman, and when I read that, it was like, wow, like this guy, like, really explained everything that I was just assuming that it should be the case. So he provided this such a great analysis confirming all of these things about design that I was trying to understand. And that really gave me a really great foundation on how to start thinking about design from there on. Yeah. So that was kind of where I decided that I need to do a PhD, that I need to approach design more scientifically, not as an artist, but as a social scientist. Yeah. And from there on, my career took quite a different turn.
Quite related with leadership and business. So your work, as I can see, the work is much more related. You relate much more. That's the correct sentence. You relate much more design with economics than with art. So I'd like to. So you have balanced high-level research and leadership with practice. That's what I'm saying. Can you share a specific story or a project from your career that truly captures the tension between the rigorous academic theory and the messy, fast-paced demands of a real-world business? So this kind of, if you have a story that really could explain how designers should see the world through economics, management, and leadership.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and there is not like one way or one approach. It's really about being adaptable. I'll tell you about. I'll give you a story that really set me on this trajectory. Like the backstory, because I was telling you, I realized there are so many things they didn't taught me in school. But I know exactly the moment in professional practice when I experienced that. So I was a creative director for this government program in Macedonia for UNESCO World Heritage Site that was recently discovered, and I was doing the global promotion for it. So I do a logo, I do beautiful photography, I coordinate photographers
art school,
and stuff.
Art school.
Very classic, how would you do it? In the same way, very classic. And because this was like on top of a mountain, this site, quite in a remote area, we needed some four-wheel drives, SUVs. So before that, we had some engagement with Toyota where they gave us on loan, once we were doing some photo shoot. And I wanted to ask them if they can continue sponsoring this project. And the executives, they said, yeah, sure, we'll talk, And I come, and I show them, hey, this is the beautiful logo, this is the beautiful logo that I've done. Look how beautiful photographs, the filters that we are using, and so on. We're getting ready for National Geographic and, things like that. And they say, this is really, really nice, but can you talk to us how this relates to our business? And I just, completely blanked. I didn't expect, I thought like, as we were always, being taught in school, like, your work ends here. You presented your work, right? What do I know about their business or so on? But it was a very, very valuable lesson at the time. And I realized like, I'm completely unprepared to answer questions like that. Why am I here even? Like, why will they help me if I can't explain to them, what's in it for them? And so, So that was the first time when I realized how unprepared I am. I could talk about how beautiful the work is, the balance, all of these type of things, how the logo is positioned, the scale, and stuff like that. But I could not answer that question. So I really struggled there. And I could see that they were started to feel very sorry about me. Sorry that they asked, because I just lacked the vocabulary, the language to talk about it. So I could just very randomly, I've just heard that BMW sponsored the archaeological site in Troy.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like, BMW done something like that. So maybe you should do something like that here. And then I remembered it was very popular at the time, the term CSR, corporate social responsibility. I said, this maybe can fit under your, corporate social responsibility agenda. And I said, okay. We'll give you the cars and we'll fund,
so
this work.
We can say that when you realize that design can leverage business. So it's a kind of, I don't say if I could say it, but it's a kind of, do not want to say tool because I don't have another word in English, but in fact it's something that you use to growth, to improve, but always connected to business. So we can say that design's role is changing the world, in fact. Yeah. So in your experience, what is the most significant point of resistance when you're trying to implement systemic, responsible design solution? It is usually technological, economic, political, or cultural issues, or business issues?
No, it is cultural because of exactly the same story that I just told you. People will normally have interaction with that kind of designers, like I used to be.
Okay.
And then of course, they will not trust them with serious decisions, So it is cultural. Even now, when people say, like, oh, what do you do? I say, I'm a designer. And they will say, oh, you design websites? You design websites or apps or, like, what do you do? Like, logos? And say, like, oh, how do I explain?
I change business.
Yeah. But now it's very different what I do. But you see, after that situation with Toyota, I went to study much, much more, not design. I took marketing books, business books, management books, consumer behavior books. I tried to study economics. I tried to study, like all of these other things because I felt like, what is my role as a designer? Is it just to create beautiful things or to have some kind of impact? What is the purpose of my work? What is the purpose of my profession? Yeah, for some people are very content to do beautiful things, but I wanted to create impact.
Okay, so we can say that the intersection of design and strategy is central to your work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I need to have a purpose. I cannot just anymore do stuff for the sake of doing stuff. I need to know that there is a meaning to what I do.
Okay, purpose and meaning.
Proposing meaning, but, for some kind of intent. Sometimes it's, design today has changed. Once it was only about aesthetics and form and maybe products and, just like that. Then it became about problem solving.
Okay.
I've solved many problems. I still continue. But it's no longer about that. Now it's really about leadership and purpose. Because now the position that designers should have, not all designers, but some designers, like the type of work that I do, is about having a seat at the table when the decisions are made so that we can actually prevent some of these problems happening in the first place so that we don't have to go and solving them after. Sometimes these things happen because the designers have been excluded from that conversation. And have been excluded because they were not able to have a conversation at that table.
Okay.
So I've spent second half of my education learning how to have those conversations.
How to put a designer in a C-level company.
Yes, how to put a designer in a C-level.
So we could say that in the first day as designers, try to solve functionality. After that, we are focused on problem solving. That's your words, and I really like them. And now designers should achieve purpose and impact. Something like as a resume of this relation between design and strategy, business, and leadership.
Because design is an ideology now. It's a way of looking at the world in a particular way. And it was a human-centric thing in terms of how we were positioning ourselves after some time, in terms of problem solving. And now it's even more than that. Now it's humanity-centric.
Okay.
And under humanity, we look at not only people and society, but all living creatures, the environment, everything around us. So this is much, much bigger take on things and a much bigger responsibility for the field.
Yeah. So this idea of interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity approaches are also central for our research center, our UNIDCOM work. And your work really often bridges the academic and the professional worlds.
Yeah.
How can design research maintain scientific rigor while remaining impactful and accessible to industry and society?
Research is research. There is different way to, like when you're preparing research for academic publications and when you're preparing research for industry. It doesn't mean that you're doing less work. Well, it can. It depends, Like sometimes you can do faster, quicker research, but you don't necessarily need to, for an industry, you don't necessarily need to prepare references, things, details. You don't need to necessarily follow the traditional conventions that you will put in a regular paper that's going to go for peer review, because most of this type of work that is done in industry is confidential. It's not going to be shared with reviewers. So, so you can just bypass some of the academic protocols that you will typically do in that work. And you need to write the research paper, the research report in an industry, more in terms of executive summary. Like you will not be questioned in the same way like in an academic setting, like about your findings, because you're entrusted to pursue these findings. You don't need to build the same argument as you typically do. So you're just focused on, getting the insights. And in my particular case, translating those insights into actionable points in terms of this is what we need to do. Now, this is a very interesting thing. It is really about who writes the design brief.
Okay.
And this is where the power in the field of design actually lies.
How to ask and what is asking, something like this.
It.
I need some
Shall
water.
we? Yeah.
Sorry,
Let's do.
because I'm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You don't need to cut. It's good. You want waters also? No.
No, it's okay. So, the research, why is it so important? It is important, especially in industry context, because the research informs the design brief.
Okay.
In the past, we were not taught to think about it in that way. The designers sit and say, oh, the client needs to give me a design brief. And then designers complain, the client gave me a bad design brief. How can a client give you a good design brief? Client is not a designer. The client cannot brief you how to do the work correctly. And this is a misconception in the field. We say, well, the client needs to tell us what the problem is. No. That's only partially true. There is a big difference between experiencing a problem and prescribing a solution to the problem.
Okay.
So I always say to people, it's like this. We need to be like doctors. When you go to see a doctor, you don't say, oh, doctor, send me for a surgery.
Because
of course,
it hurts
because
here.
it hurts me here, I need to go for a surgery. And they'll say, yeah, sure, go.
Okay.
Here is,
Use this knife.
Go for surgery. No, that's not going to happen, like that. The doctor will say, wait a minute. We don't know if you need to go for surgery.
Let's research about your problem.
Well, yeah. So tell me first your symptoms.
Yeah, asking.
Yeah. How do you feel? What is bothering you? Then, let's run some tests. I need to, see. So then your symptoms, once we do the test, then I'm going to have a better understanding of the situation. And then based on what I know, I will prescribe. Maybe it's a surgery, maybe some other kind of medicine. Maybe you need to go and see a particular specialist in a particular area. But it is based on these things that the doctor determines what's the best course of action from there on. So this is the difference. Now, we have not been educated to behave like doctors. We've been educated to behave like pharmacists.
Okay.
Come to me, give me that, give me that as well. Here you go. Thank you so much. Which is fine. Some designers, they just want to be pharmacists. And it's fine. And they've been only educated to be as pharmacists, and their ambition is to become a pharmacist. My ambition has been, to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I am
to
a
prescribe
doctor.
the right.
I always joke with my wife, it's like, when she says something about, I'm not feeling well, so like, you can tell me I'm a doctor. Yeah. So, okay. But different kind of doctor, but still.
Yeah.
But this is how I see things. So this is why research has been so important for me. Not because I want to publish papers, not because I want to talk about philosophical, abstract, theoretical things. Okay, yes, I want to do that too, and I do that. But it is because I need research to make better informed design decisions. The leadership role in design is the ability to write design briefs for other designers to execute.
Okay.
Why is this so fundamentally important, even more important today? It's because of AI.
Okay.
If the design brief is good enough, it's really strong, and it provides, the insights. The design brief always holds the key to what the solution is.
Yeah.
So if the design brief is really good,
a good brief is 50% of the solution, for instance.
More.
Even more.
It is 90% of the solution.
Okay. So if you write well the question, probably the solution is inside of the question.
It's not a question. It's instructions. Design brief is the instructions on what needs to be done. So if you're correctly, framing the issue, and you're providing the direction in the design brief, needs to be done this and this and this in this particular way, it is irrelevant whether a human or a machine will execute the design brief.
Okay.
It's like really about preparing a very good prompt.
Framing all the phases of the problem,
Yeah.
or layering. I don't know if this word even exists. So you put everything in layers, and you solve, or you answer, or you try to understand each layer of the problem.
Yeah, but it's not only the problem. It is same as a doctor giving you a prescription. Yes, can send you to a surgery, can send you to whatever, can send you to a pharmacist.
Yeah.
But it's the doctor has decided what is the solution to your problem at that point. And he's just prescribing, the outcome. Now, AI can deliver that outcome faster and better than a human, but it cannot decide what to do on its own. It cannot analyze in the same way as a human.
So AI gives you the different path that you can choose.
AI is a tool. It's an execution tool.
Okay.
It does not think. It's artificially. It thinks, but it does not think. It cannot.
It thinks.
People think it thinks.
Yes.
Let me put it that way. It's an illusion of that. It is really like preparing a good design brief. A good design prompt for an AI, let's say.
Yeah.
The design brief it's really a great prompt. So this is where where things get really interesting in our profession. Designers that are like me, trained to work, on complex problems, have critical thinking, know how to analyze things and so on, can use AI very effectively. For us is for people like myself who work on that level, who use research to frame, problems, AI is a really amazing tool. For designers, traditional designers that focus on developing strong technical skills, execution, who wait on a design brief to be given to them so that they can be given the instructions on what to do, for them, AI is a big problem. Why? Because that is exactly the part that AI can replace.
Technical.
The technical part. Can do it faster, better, more precise, and more and can execute more complex things than a human. So I've seen this thing before. I'm not that young. So when I was
Not that young, it's a good expression.
So-
I'm saying that all the time about
so when I was studying design, I was taught how to design with hand.
Yeah.
You too, probably,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We used to draw, I still know, you take the rapidograph, the technical pen, can still hold it in a 90-degree angle so you don't break it, so it's like very classic, with rulers, with paper and so on. So that was the pinnacle of the skills that you could have as a designer, to draw great technical drawings like that. If that was where my, education or personal desire to improve my skills ended, we won't be here talking today. Now it's the same. You can spend your career, your education, perfecting technical skills, but they are no longer needed.
Yeah.
Same as this disappeared when the computers and the software
Yeah.
came about. All of this, who cares now that I know how to draw by hand? Does it matter? No, nobody cares. It is absolutely irrelevant. So now, if you spend so much time building these technical skills, now they cease to matter. So what matters? So the only thing is us retraining ourselves to be analytical, to work on complex problems, to develop critical thinking skills, to know how to write design briefs, because that allows us to control the process. And it doesn't mean that we need to stop the traditional design education, because there is still a huge difference between a non-designer using AI to design something and a designer using AI to design something. The results are very, very different, because the designer will know much better how to manage AI as a tool in that process, not to let the AI to manage the designer.
Okay, but so we can say that AI could replace a design team. For instance,
Yeah.
you have someone with that kind of critical thinking, a good prompt designer that defines the briefing, and then you can use AI to help you to develop the let's say solutions for the not the solutions, but showing you the path,
Yeah.
the different path that you can choose, because as you were saying,
Yes.
and I agree with that, AI is not going to decide. It's
Yes.
the human that says who are going to decide if what you can do, because in the end of the day, that's a human that is prompting something to the platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like this.
So this is how the profession of design is changing. The designers are shifting from being producers and creators to being curators and editors. I used to explore AI solutions way before ChatGPT, because I had access to companies who were developing very advanced AI technology way before ChatGPT, and my team and we had an opportunity to work on some beta versions like that, let's say with Autodesk software. And Autodesk had amazing generative design software. When I first saw what this thing can do, it was like giving designers superpowers.
Okay.
But it was for design and engineering mostly for engineering. It was really difficult to use, not at all intuitive. We need to have like technicians helping us, just how to figure out, how to use it. It was extremely advanced. But these were people developing algorithms, like they were developing the algorithms for that. And this is a thing that can generate hundreds of thousands of solutions in a second. And then what you're doing as a designer, you're refining these solutions in terms of these parameters, those parameters, you're just adjusting now. Try this material, that material. What if it costs like this much? What if you use this manufacturing process? And it provides the solution. So you're like narrowing things down to the point where you're picking, okay, proceed now with this solution forward, give me more variation. So is this ideation process and exploration fast tracks it to the point that is beyond human capability. Even now, which is a lot easier to use that, with a lot more simpler, I will say, AI software. We use it in a very similar way now. Even with a company where I am Chief Innovation Officer, Icona Design Group, all our designers must use AI in the design process. But they use it very differently to how somebody may use it, which is say like, design a car for me, and it gives you something. Our designers still design the cars. But they will still sketch the car in a very traditional way. They will still do their own original sketches. Because generative AI does not create original things. It just borrows from somewhere and creates something.
Yes.
So it does not create, it processes.
It's a merging tool.
Merges stuff, So our designers still, create. They still will very traditionally, with hand, draw like they will do, still old school. But then they put that sketch through the software, and the software, the AI tool, creates the 3D model of that.
Okay.
And can even animate it. So they can, of course, refine
AI gives
that.
time to the designer.
It gives time. When you and I used to be students, we will spend 10% of the time thinking what we're going to do, and 90% of the time
Drawing.
just, drawing, struggling, throw the paper away, try again, like 90% of the time we will spend on execution.
Now we can spend 90% of the time
thinking what we need to do. And only 10% of the time is like, AI just does it. So, from a technological perspective, everything is possible. We can do anything. We can 3D print. We don't need to make models by hand. Anything is possible. So what changes then? It changes exactly, this thing. We have time to think. How are we going to use this time to think? We need to use this time to ask important questions. What do we need to do? Why do we need to do it? For who we are doing this? Are we solving the right problems or just the most profitable problems? Are we helping people?
Or not?
Are we creating more problems like we used to do? More garbage, more disposable things? Or are we solving, problems and making the world a better place? This is why, and to answer these questions, we need research. So this is why we need research. Because we need to make these decisions more informed.
It's a good answer for our young researchers and PhD students to solve how they position themselves in this evolving landscape and transdisciplinary idea of a designer.
Yeah.
I'm going to use your words. Becoming curators and editors instead of producers and creators.
Yeah.
So our design students and communication students, in fact, this is much more wide range. It's for designers, communicators, game developers. I'm thinking about the PhDs that we have here in IADE. We are going now to submit a new one in the scientific field of marketing and advertising. So in fact, how they position themselves in this different, let's say, role of the, I'm not going to say the designer, but the creative, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you still need to understand aesthetics,
Yes,
form,
of course.
functionality.
Yes,
You
of
still
course.
need to provide creative direction.
Of course.
But you don't need to do it yourself. You know, you don't need to have the same level of technical skills like we used to have back in the day. You know, or now that the kids have, you know, in terms of software and stuff and all of those things, because all of that, you know, is outsourced. Now the AI is the new Photoshop, is the new, you know, 3D Max or whatever.
3D Max, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
You are
like,
old.
I'm an old guy, I'm telling you.
You are old.
You know, so, and mind you, nobody even taught me those things. In school,
Yeah.
we didn't even have those things. We didn't even have computers when I was studying.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, there were computers. My professors were refusing to learn how to use them and were refusing to teach us. Because, no, that's like cheating. You need to know how to do these things by hand. What bothers me is this: today, there are still professors who have this attitude for AI.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, you sound like my professors from back in the day. Because they say like, oh no, this and that. It's like, this technology is not going to go away. It's not going to go away.
Learn to use it. That's that's what everybody should do. Not refuse, not say I'm not going to use this kind of stuff because it's cheating.
They say many problems, you know, or for environmental issues, this kind of issues, privacy, copywriting, whatever. Yeah, I understand all of that. You're not going to fix these things, you know, by refusing to use it.
Yeah.
Too much investment has taken place. Too many governments have been involved. It's been embedded into everything we do. You know, lots of these things will be resolved over time, but just pretending it doesn't exist is not an answer. Even universities, they say, oh, we need to kind of go back to pen and paper so students wouldn't use AI to cheat. They say like, no, it's exactly the opposite. I will give them
I think
task.
I have cheated with pen and paper.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if I can say this because I'm the dean of the school, but I still remember at least one time that I cheated with pen and paper.
We've all done that. We've all done that.
So it's the same now. The tool is different.
But I will say to the students, it's like when I develop, you know, this type of things, I say, you need to use AI to deliver this task.
Yeah,
but what am I assessing? I'm assessing how did you decide what to ask? How did you know the AI? How were you developing the prompt? Did you validate the information? Did you check the references that AI did? So it's still, I will ask them to go through the same research process to validate and verify the information, you know, but they're just using a tool. It's like a calculator. And I'll tell you, the most interesting exam that I had when I was a student was this course on ergonomics. And we were studying, you know, ergonomics and theory and standards and whatnot. Never mind. And it's about 20 of us in a class. And the professor comes and says, okay, you need to get ready for the exam. Exam is starting, you know, in 15 minutes. You will have 45 minutes to answer 45 questions.
Okay.
Bring all your books, all your notes, everything. Put them on the tables in front of you, and I will exit the classroom and I will come back in 45 minutes. Start. And it was amazing. Okay? It was exactly the opposite of how, you know, we were taught, like, no books, no things, you need to memorize. I'm going to be making sure that you're not cheating. It was like, no. To solve this 45 minutes, we needed to work as a team. So it was a very interesting social experiment. We need to instantly, you know, organize ourselves. So you need to emerge who are the leaders in the group. Yeah. You know, okay, you take the first 5 questions, you 2. You take the next 5. You take the next 5. Take, you know, separate the books, start looking for the information, because it's a very technical information. It's impossible to, to memorize all of that. You can, but it's crazy. Why? And the only way that we can complete 45 questions in 45 minutes is teamwork, use of resources, consultation. Oh, it's like amazing soft skills. And the professor comes and you're like wondering, like, wow, this was like, incredible. Why did you let us do it like that? He says, tomorrow you're not going to live on a desert island.
Yeah, we have to work with each other.
You need to work with each other. You need to work with other people. You're going to have access to resources. The key is you to know how to find the information, not for you to memorize. You're going to forget at some point.
Yeah, of course.
So this is about you learning how to use the resources, how to work in a team, how to build soft skills, how to negotiate a solution, and all of these things. That's what I'm assessing you. Not whether you know the technical information, which is, that's the book for it. So for me, that was the most groundbreaking, kind of exam I ever had. And it really informed a lot of my thinking later on. Nobody else was doing it. This was just this guy. And this is how I'm thinking about approaching AI now. It's that exam that really gives me the vision on how to incorporate, AI in the curriculum. Here it is, but it's not you just using it to cheat. How you're using it to come up with a solution. Because if you tell to the students, it's not cheating if you tell them you have to use AI. It's cheating when students say, no, I didn't use AI, but they did. But if you tell them explicitly, you have to use it, but I will be assessing you on how you're using it and how you're validating and verifying this information and how you're coming to the solution. That's what I'm going to assess, because I want to know how you are working with AI, not how AI is doing things by itself. Because this is the only way that we can stay on top of things. We need to control the machine. We cannot let the machine control us. Okay, and that's what we need to teach the students.
What gives you hope about the future of design with this kind of AI shadow, let's say, because most of the people are struggling against AI, thinks what we were saying, that using AI is cheating and it's going to replace the designer and it's going to replace the illustrator and it's going to replace the architect, the software engineer.
It's not necessary that it will replace all of these things. You see, it really depends. Like, you still need illustrators to develop original styles. AI doesn't develop an original style; it copies a style. Yeah. Okay. So I still see a room for people to express creatively themselves and so on. But for a different purpose. Think of it as like the invention of the car. Before the car, we used to use horses for everything.
Yeah.
After the car, we didn't kill all the horses.
But you still use them for another thing.
But you use them for really beautiful things, for people, keep them on farms, for, horseback riding. It's for, very different things. You don't use them to carry things around, because now you can use cars. You have a very different attitude, let's say, to the horses now than before. Same as with the digital and print. Before digital, we were printing everything.
Yeah.
Now we are printing only things that have more meaning to us. Many of the things that don't need to be printed are just staying on digital. Like, you don't have yellow pages anymore, right? Because you just Google. Imagine like how many trees that has saved. Okay?
Yeah.
You understand? So this is the same thing. It doesn't mean that lots of the things that we are trained to do and that people are really becoming experts in will disappear. What I'm thinking is that maybe we get even better at some of these creative things, because we don't need to use that for absolutely everything. We're going to be still creating new knowledge, new forms of expression, and so on, because we will have more time to do that. And other people will have more time to think about the bigger things. So I see this as a positive development in the long term. Yes, there are lots of issues that still need to be addressed. Ethical, environmental, all kinds of, issues that will need to be addressed in terms of the use of AI. But we cannot pretend it's not there.
Yeah, I would say mostly those two, ethical and environmental.
Yeah.
But we cannot pretend it's not there. Yeah, I think it's a nice way to finish. Gjoko, thank you so much for sharing with us all your thoughts. It was very nice to have you here in IADE. In the first time, because you are going to come back, I know that. We have to arrange that. And I hope you enjoyed our conversation for our unreleased design research podcast that will be
I loved it.
Available soon.
Thank you for having me as your guest.
Thank you so much.
If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our podcast on the main platform. For more information about the Unreleased podcast, go to unreleased.unidcom-IADE.pt. There, you can find all the episodes and more information about our guests. Unreleased podcast is the result of the work of the students of Design Culture and Practices course from the PhD in Design program of IADE, Universidade Europeia. It's produced and edited by Unidcom.